The short horror story, The Haunted Effigy. In the last days of winter in Bay Say village, the north wind howled through the thorny hedges at the village entrance, each gust sounding like a mournful wail. The small village, nestled in this low-lying area, was already melancholic, but now it felt even gloomier due to the funeral of Elder Vu, the clan head. Elder Vu didn't die of old age or sickness. It was rumored he died a strange death in the garden. He was found face down in black mud, his hands clawing as if trying to cling to life, but to no avail. The funeral took place on a somber afternoon, as the setting sun painted the western horizon an ominous, blood-red hue. Villagers attended the funeral, partly out of respect for the Vu family's customs and partly out of curiosity about the elder's bizarre death. The mournful beat of drums and the tearful cries of the descendants echoed throughout the procession. Leading the funeral procession was Ben, holding a torch, his face etched with profound sorrow. Ben was the strongest man in the village, skilled in the grim task of grave digging. Today, he was digging a grave for Elder Vu at Red Earth Hill, the highest, yet most desolate burial ground in the village. As the coffin was carried to the dark, gaping mouth of the grave, 10 strong young men, with broad shoulders and powerful biceps, were chosen to lower it. However, something strange began to happen even before the lowering ritual commenced. The coffin, made of strong wood and easily carried by 10 men, suddenly became impossibly heavy, as if it were made of lead. Sweat poured down the foreheads of the young men. Their neck veins bulged, their limbs trembled, but the coffin wouldn't budge an inch. It was as if an invisible force beneath the earth held it tightly. Or perhaps the one inside simply refused to leave. Ben, standing at the bottom of the grave to guide the coffin, sensing the escalating tension, urged everyone to put all their strength into it. He looked up and saw everyone's faces were ashen, utterly drained of color. Ben glanced down at his feet, at the dark, hollow grave where shimmering water reflected the light from above, making everything seem distorted. But Ben's keen eyes, accustomed to working in the dark, suddenly noticed something peculiar. The sticky yellow clay at the bottom of the grave wasn't just clay or an underground spring. It was a tangle of black, coarse hairs, thick as ropes, sprouting and growing. Ben rubbed his eyes, thinking he was imagining things, but the hairs grew longer, darker, intertwining like the fur of some giant beast hiding just beneath the soil. A sudden blast of cold air shot up his spine, making him shiver uncontrollably. He tried to scream, to warn everyone, but his voice was choked, as if someone had clamped a hand over his mouth. Just then, the shaman on the grave's edge struck the coffin 3 times with his stick, murmuring incantations. The coffin suddenly became featherlight, slipping from the bearer's hands and plummeting with a thud into the grave. Ben, still inside the grave, felt his heart pound frantically. The coffin lay still at the bottom, crushing the strange black hairs. Ben scrambled out, his face utterly drained of blood. He didn't dare utter a single word to anyone about what he had just witnessed. In his profession, it was taboo to speak of such unsettling things above ground. The funeral ended abruptly, everyone hurrying back, leaving Red Earth Hill to slowly disappear into the thick night fog. That night, Bay Say village fell into a weary sleep after a dismal day. Only Master Phan's house remained lit. Master Phan, a wealthy man whose house was filled with riches from his trade in votive offerings, was in his main living room. His whole body was tired, but Master Phan and his workers were busy in the votive workshop, 1,000 square meters wide, constantly filled with the pungent smell of glue and dyes. Outside, the wind grew stronger, rustling the dry banana leaves. Suddenly, strange sounds echoed from the yin-yang tiled roof of the old house, a dry, rhythmic clattering, clear as the steady clip-clop of horse hooves. Master Phan started, dropping his prayer beads. He held his breath, listening intently. The sound moved from the kitchen roof, across the porch, and then onto the main house's roof. He let out a relieved sigh. Master Phan knew his family didn't own horses, and no one in the village did either. Horses were noble animals used for transporting goods in the mountains, not in this low-lying area, where only buffalo and cows were common. So where did those horse hooves come from? He cautiously opened the door and stepped out, looking up at the roof. In the dim darkness, he saw nothing, only the wind whistling through the tile gaps, sounding like the heavy breathing of a large animal. Mrs. Phan rushed out of the room, her face pale, grabbing her husband's arm and asking what was wrong. Master Phan shrugged her hand off, dismissing her worries. "It's probably just a stray cat on the roof," he said, but both husband and wife knew that a stray cat couldn't make such heavy, rhythmic sounds. The thumping continued, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, dragging on until the roosters crow at the third watch of the night, when it finally stopped. The next morning, a horrific sight greeted Master Phan's workers. The largest dog in the yard, a bull-like animal as big as a calf, lay dead in the center of the courtyard. It wasn't lying on its side or stomach like normal animals, but rather in a bizarre, upright posture. Its front legs extended, head held high, and hind legs bent as if kneeling in subservience. More disturbingly, its muzzle was tied with a dark red string, the very same kind used to bind sacrificial effigies in the votive workshop. The dog's eyes were wide open, bloodshot, staring intently towards the workshop where paper horses were drying, ready to be shipped to other provinces. Its tongue hung out, purple and swollen, yet there was no blood or visible wounds on its body. Master Phan looked at the dog's carcass, his hands and feet trembling. He recognized the dark red string. It was a special type of string he had commissioned, dyed with the sap of forest trees to achieve a deep, blood-like red. He turned to look at his workers. All of them lowered their heads in fear. Ben, passing by Master Phan's gate, saw the crowd gathered and peered in. The sight of the dog made Ben shiver, recalling the black hairs at the bottom of the grave the previous afternoon. A cold premonition whispered to him that misfortune had only just begun to descend upon this once peaceful Bay Say village. The bizarre death of Master Phan's dog quickly became the talk of the village. People whispered, spreading rumors that Master Phan's unethical business practices had angered the gods, or that his house was cursed by ghosts. But Master Phan, with his decisive and stubborn nature, ordered his family to bury the dog immediately in the garden, strictly forbidding them from inviting any shamans or priests to avoid further ill omens. Yet the fear in his heart grew stronger. To calm himself, he instructed his head craftsman to quickly make a large paper horse, as big as a real one. It was elaborately decorated with colorful paper scales, its eyes dotted with dark ink. The horse was completed in 3 days. Standing majestically in the middle of the workshop, its ink-drawn eyes seemed to possess a strange, lifelike soul. Then, on the full moon night, when the moon hung high, disaster struck Master Phan's family. Lua, his beautiful, innocent youngest daughter, suddenly fell ill. She lay listlessly in bed, delirious, muttering nonsense. By midnight, her former self seemed to vanish, replaced by a horrifying transformation. Her head swelled, and her once gentle eyes became wild and vacant. She no longer spoke human words, but instead emitted strange, unsettling sounds. A long, piercing, ear-splitting scream filled the air, chilling everyone to the bone. She sprang from the bed, not standing on 2 feet but kneeling, hands on the ground. She moved on all fours, her back hunched, head swaying back and forth. Mrs. Phan, horrified, rushed to embrace her daughter, but Lua pushed her mother's hand away with an unimaginable strength for a frail girl. She scurried around the room, nails scratching the tiled floor, sparks flying, while continuously emitting strange, growling noises. Master Phan, hearing his wife's screams, rushed in to witness his daughter crawling on all fours, gnawing at the table legs like an animal grazing. He froze, utterly paralyzed with fear. They could no longer hide this. Mrs. Phan, weeping, pleaded with her husband to call a shaman. Master Phan reluctantly relented, sending for the renowned shaman Mo, known for his powerful spells. Shaman Mo arrived as the rooster crowed at the first watch and stepped through Master Phan's gate. His face suddenly changed color. He stiffened, smelling something in the air. It wasn't the smell of incense or glue, but the strong, pungent odor of blood and animal sweat. Shaman Mo tried to compose himself and entered the main hall, but before he could even set foot on the threshold, he clutched his chest, his eyes rolled back, and he coughed up a mouthful of bright red blood. Collapsed, his hand trembling as he pointed towards the house, stammering, "Evil creature, animal spirit. It has become a demon. Run, get away." He then turned and fled in a panic, forgetting his bag and rattan stick. The Phan family was in utter despair. Just then, Ben, who was on his night patrol with some fellow villagers, noticed the commotion and came to investigate. Seeing Shaman Mo vomiting blood and fleeing in terror, he knew the situation was beyond the control of ordinary men. An image flashed in his mind. Master Tam the Cripple, also known as Tam and Hu, an old man living in seclusion at the edge of the village, bordering the wild fields. People only knew him as an oil lamp repairman who earned a meager living and walked with a limp due to a deformed leg. But Ben had heard from the elders that Master Tam was once a formidable sorcerer who had quelled many evil spirits, but after some incident, he had washed his hands of the sword. Without hesitation, Ben ran directly to Master Tam's thatched hut. It was nearly dawn, and a thick fog hung in the air. Master Tam was sitting on his porch, skillfully weaving bamboo strips, a steaming teacup beside him. When Ben rushed up, Master Tam didn't even lift his head to look at him. "Why are you up and about, restless like a ghost, not sleeping at home, letting the cold wind bite you?" Ben, panting, recounted the entire ordeal at Master Phan's house, from the demonically killed dog to Lua's transformation into a horse-like creature, and then Shaman Mo vomiting blood. Ben desperately pleaded, "Master Tam, I know you are a man of great power. Please save Lua, she's so young and innocent, she doesn't deserve this. The village is in chaos now." Master Tam stopped weaving, slowly lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Ben. His face was a network of harsh, cold wrinkles. He gave a faint smile and said, "Save them? I am just a basket weaver, what do I know about saving? Each must pay their own debts, each must face their own karma. The Phan family sowed what they reaped. Interfering will only bring more trouble upon myself." Ben was stunned by Master Tam's indifference. He tried to persuade him further, "But Master, I saw Shaman Mo vomit blood with my own eyes. This demon is truly fierce. If you don't intervene, Lua might not survive tonight." "How can you bear to let her die?" Master Tam took a sip of tea, his gaze distant, looking towards Bay Say village, still shrouded in thick white fog. He said nothing more before resuming his bamboo weaving, the scraping sound filling the air. Ben stood rooted to the spot, knowing he couldn't sway the stubborn old man. He reluctantly turned to leave, a heavy sense of dread in his heart, certain that the troubles at Master Phan's house wouldn't end with that terrifying night. The next morning, another shocking incident occurred at the votive workshop. Brother 2, the most skilled craftsman in the workshop, was operating the manual paper-cutting machine when he suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone rushed over to find his right hand horribly mangled by the dull blade of the machine. Brother 2's face was chalk-white, and he writhed in agony on the floor, yet he was babbling incoherently. He swore, "Before the blade came down, I saw the giant paper horse standing in the corner of the workshop suddenly turn its head. Its paper head, stiff and ordinary, turned, and its ink-drawn eyes narrowed. Its paper mouth curved into a grotesque, devilish smile. It was that smile that made me lose my grip and slip my hand into the machine." No one dared to believe Brother 2's words, thinking he was delirious from pain, but fear enveloped all the workers. They began to whisper amongst themselves. Many asked for leave, no longer daring to set foot in the workshop. The once bustling votive workshop was now eerily silent, leaving only the solemn paper horse effigies standing still in the dim, flickering shadows. Mrs. Phan couldn't bear it anymore. Watching her daughter descend into madness and her husband wander aimlessly, aging visibly each day, she decided to seek out Master Tam the Cripple once more. She knew Master Tam had refused Ben, but she clung to the sincerity of a mother's heart. That day, it rained heavily, flooding the path. Mrs. Phan walked through the pouring rain from her house to Master Tam's hut. She knelt before his bamboo-slatted door, staying there from noon until late afternoon, drenched and shivering from the cold rain. Inside, Master Tam heard the silent patter of rain, yet felt a rising undercurrent. He had long wished to avoid worldly affairs, to steer clear of the spiritual disputes and grievances of the underworld. But the woman's mournful cries and the pervasive evil aura emanating from Master Phan's house made it impossible for him to remain still. It was a type of malevolent energy he had encountered before, a bloodthirsty, vengeful evil. The creaking bamboo door slowly opened. Master Tam, leaning on his staff, stepped onto the porch and looked at the soaking wet, trembling woman. He shook his head, his voice deep and somber. "Go home, woman. I will come to your house, not for your family's money, but because I smell the stench of things that should not exist in this world." Mrs. Phan, overjoyed, bowed her head in thanks. Master Tam, wearing a palm leaf poncho, slowly followed her back to the village. Upon reaching Master Phan's house, Master Tam did not enter through the grand main gate. He went around to the back, following the dilapidated fence that led to the votive workshop. He stopped silently before the workshop door, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed every nook and cranny. He stepped inside, a chilling cold air hitting his nose. The paper effigies hanging from the ceiling swayed slightly, despite the still air. Master Tam walked over to a dark, polished ironwood pillar. He raised his ebony staff and struck the pillar 3 times with force. The sound that emanated was not the solid thud of old ironwood, but a hollow, dry echo like tapping on a brittle skull or an empty bone. Master Phan, who had followed behind, shivered. Master Tam turned back, his sharp eyes fixed on Master Phan. This house is raising vipers, feeding foxes within its walls. This pillar is hollow inside, filled with vengeful spirits. Master Phan, what you used to build your fortune is now returning to collect its debt. Master Phan flinched, sweat pouring down his body despite the cold rain. He stammered, "Master, I don't understand what you're saying. I've always traded in votive offerings honestly, wishing blessings upon people. I've never done anything unethical. Whether it was honest or not, heaven knows, earth knows, and the thing lurking in your house knows," Master Tam retorted. "Tonight, prepare a special offering for me. I want to see the true nature of the blessings you've accumulated all these years." Following Master Tam's instructions, the offering was prepared in a peculiar way, unlike any traditional ritual. There were no boiled chickens, steamed sticky rice, or fresh fruits. On the ornate copper tray, there was only a bowl of raw glutinous rice soaked in salted water, 3 boiled and peeled black duck eggs, and a bowl of fresh, dark red dog blood. Master Tam began the ritual at the stroke of midnight. Lua's room was sealed, all openings covered with yellow paper talismans. Master Phan and Mrs. Phan were instructed to remain in the living room and not to approach, no matter what sounds they heard. Inside Lua's room, only Master Tam and Ben were present. Ben had been called by Master Tam to assist, partly because he possessed a strong spirit and was accustomed to dealing with negative energies from his grave-digging profession. Lua lay on the bed, her limbs tied tightly to the bed frame with ropes made of woven hair. She lay still, breathing steadily, an unsettling calmness about her, while a flickering oil lamp in the corner cast wavering shadows on the walls. Exactly at midnight, the pendulum clock in the living room chimed 12 times. Outside, the wind suddenly stopped blowing, and the silence was so profound that Ben could hear his own heart pounding. Master Tam sat cross-legged in the middle of the room, eyes closed, muttering incantations that sounded like the chirping of birds. Lua's body twitched, her bloodshot eyes wide open, glowing like 2 hot coals in the darkness. She didn't struggle against the ropes. Instead, her small mouth suddenly stretched wide, emitting a long, sharp, piercing shriek. The ropes made of twisted hair stretched taut and then snapped, as if cut by a knife. Ben, terrified, stumbled back, clutching the grave-digging shovel he always carried. Lua lunged directly at Ben with the speed of a pouncing beast. Ben raised his shovel to defend himself, but the strength of the slender girl was now like that of a powerful warhorse. She flung Ben against the wall with such force that he cried out in pain, his head swimming. Lua then bore down on him, her teeth bared, aiming to bite his neck. At that very moment, Master Tam's eyes snapped open. Showing no panic, he scooped a handful of sticky rice from the bowl and with a loud shout of "break," flung the rice directly at Lua's face. A strange phenomenon occurred. The white grains of rice, upon contact with her skin, instantly sizzled and smoked. Lua let out a guttural sound no longer a girl's voice, but a deep growl mixed with an animalistic shriek. She clutched her face, collapsing onto the floor, writhing back and forth. Master Tam didn't stop. He quickly grabbed the bowl of dog blood and splashed it directly onto Lua. As the blood touched her body, it created loud sizzling sounds. Lua convulsed violently, arching her back like a shrimp, her eyes wide, staring at something invisible. Master Tam angrily ordered Ben, who was still reeling from pain, to pounce and pin down Lua's thrashing legs. The girl's body jerked and struggled, as stiff as ice. Master Tam approached, pressing his finger firmly onto Lua's philtrum. Her convulsions reached a peak, she let out a loud groan, and then began to vomit violently onto the floor. In the flickering oil lamplight, Ben saw what Lua had expelled. It wasn't food, nor stomach acid. It was a fist-sized clump of black, tangled, matted hair. And most horrifyingly, intertwined within that vile mess was a long, sharp, bone-white canine tooth. Lua lay unconscious, while Master Tam wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked at the vile mess on the floor, his expression growing more serious. I suspected it, but not that it had rooted so deeply. This is not a typical possession. This is a malevolent beast, nourished by flesh and blood. Ben, his voice trembling, asked, "Master, what kind of tooth is that?" Master Tam used his staff to pry the canine tooth from the clump of hair, his voice chillingly calm. A dog's tooth, but from a demon dog spirit, implanted to ensure this family's lineage dies out. Outside, a steady rain began to fall, its patter on the roof tiles mingling with the labored breaths of the two men. The dark secrets of Master Phan's family were only just beginning to unravel. After the violent vomiting of the hairball and the grotesque fang, Lua lay limp as a withered banana leaf. When the pale light of dawn crept through the wooden window, her eyes slowly opened. They no longer held the wild red glint, but were instead the vacant, bewildered eyes of her usual self. She stared blankly at the ceiling, occasionally muttering for water, completely unaware of the terrifying ordeal she had just endured. Master Tam the Cripple sat on a bamboo bench by the corner of the house, holding an unlit pipe. He looked at Lua, then turned to Master Phan. Master Tam stood up, leaning on his staff, and struck the tiled floor right where Lua's bed lay, saying, "Beneath this bed where Lua sleeps, dig it up. Dig by the left leg of the bed." Master Phan flinched, stammering, "Master, what are you telling me to dig up?" Master Tam offered no explanation, merely signaled Ben with his eyes. Ben understood, retrieved the workshop's shovel and pickaxe, which were propped against the house, and helped carefully move the heavy ironwood bed aside. Lua and Mrs. Phan were gently led to another room to rest. Lua's room didn't have the ornate tiled floor of the living room, but a rough cement floor. Ben swung his pickaxe forcefully, breaking the cement layer into chunks. Beneath the cement was a tightly packed earth floor. As they dug deeper, the air in the room grew heavy and difficult to breathe. The damp earth smell became stronger, mingled with a faint, disturbing metallic stench. When Ben had dug to about knee level, his shovel struck something hard. He stopped, carefully removing the sticky clay around it. A bone-white fragment was revealed. Ben shivered and looked up at Master Tam. Master Tam nodded, indicating for him to continue. Master Phan stood by the doorframe, clutching the wood, his eyes fixed on the deepening hole. Sweat poured from his forehead despite the chilly air. When the last layer of earth was cleared, what was revealed at the bottom of the pit made Ben almost drop his shovel. It wasn't a complete human skeleton, nor was it entirely animal bones. It was a grotesque composite. The large rib cage belonged to a four-legged animal, perhaps a dog or a horse. But attached to that animal's neck was a round skull, roughly the size of a 10-year-old child's skull. The most horrifying detail was a rusty iron nail, about 4 inches long, driven deeply into the very center of the skull's forehead. Ben scrambled out of the pit, his face completely bloodless. He had exhumed countless graves, seen all manner of death, but never anything so vile and demonic. Master Tam approached, looking down at the dark, gaping hole. He let out a heavy sigh, as if carrying 1,000 pounds. He turned back to Master Phan. "Master Phan, 20 years ago, when you built this house, what did you bury here to attract wealth? Look closely, that monstrous thing down there is what's causing all this. Don't try to deny it's just a neighbor's dog that wandered off." Master Phan trembled, his legs giving out, and he knelt at the threshold. He frantically shook his head, muttering that he knew nothing. Master Tam gave a bitter, knowing smile. What builder would dare drive a nail into a skull's glabella to trap a wandering soul, Master Phan? This is a soul imprisonment ritual, forcing a restless spirit to remain and serve the homeowner. If you don't tell the truth, then don't blame me if your old life and this house don't survive this moon cycle. Outside, the sky suddenly darkened, and ominous storm clouds gathered, obscuring the sun. A chill wind howled from the deepening pit, as if carrying the bitter, bone-chilling wails of a lost soul. That night, Master Tam didn't return to his hut, but stayed at Master Phan's house. He explained that once the pit was opened, it couldn't be immediately refilled, and someone needed to guard it to prevent the malevolent energy from escaping with full force. The two men sat on the porch next to a small bonfire made of chinaberry wood. Master Tam gazed at the flickering flames, his voice low and solemn, recounting to Ben the dark, often unknown corners of the magical underworld. He spoke of the horse demon ritual, an ancient art originating from long-distance horse traders in distant border regions. They believed horses possessed spiritual power and endurance and sought to ensure safe, profitable journeys. They would use the bones of war horses who died in battle, imbue them with spells, and mix them with human blood to practice their magic. But human greed is boundless. What began as a plea for safe passage twisted into a dark ritual for ill-gotten gains, regardless of the methods. They no longer used naturally deceased humans, but chose healthy, vibrant horses, sacrificing them while alive to preserve their powerful life force. More horrifyingly, to make the horse obedient and intelligent to help the family prosper, they would embed a human soul within it. Ben listened, his skin crawling. He asked, "Master, how do you embed a human soul into a horse?" Master Tam tossed a piece of firewood into the red embers, sparks flying. "By using the bones of those who died young or vagrants with no one to claim them. They drive a nail into the glabella of the skull to trap the soul inside, then attach this skull to the animal's skeleton and bury it beneath the house or workplace. The imprisoned soul, suffering and tormented by the spells, will frantically draw money and good fortune to the household, hoping for release. It's a deal with the devil. The family quickly grows rich, but the price is the lives of their loved ones and eventually their own." As the two men talked, strange noises began to emanate from within Master Phan's large, dark votive workshop. Mrs. Phan, exhausted, had fallen asleep. Master Phan, however, tossed and turned, unable to sleep, his mind consumed by Master Tam's words. He heard rustling sounds, like footsteps on dry leaves. Master Phan held his breath, peeking through a crack in the bedroom door. In the ghostly moonlight, he saw a sight that made his heart nearly stop. The sacrificial effigies, made of white paper and originally arranged neatly on shelves, had somehow descended to the floor. They weren't walking normally, but glided silently, stealthily, like ghosts. There were about 5 or 6 effigies, forming a line circling the couple's bed. Their faces were crudely drawn with ink strokes, but in the darkness, he felt as if those soulless eyes were watching him. Master Phan wanted to scream for Master Tam, but his throat was constricted. One effigy approached the bed, its pale white paper face pressed close to his own. He smelled the pungent odor of glue and ancient, musty paper. The effigy slowly raised its slender arm, its long, bony fingers lightly touching his neck. Master Phan's eyes widened in terror, struggling in vain. Just then, the rooster's crow at the third watch pierced the night. The effigies froze, then simultaneously collapsed to the floor, once again becoming lifeless paper figures. Master Phan shot upright, drenched in sweat, letting out a blood-curdling scream. His short cry made Master Tam and Ben rush over. The room quickly descended into chaos. Master Phan sat huddled on his bed, clutching his head, eyes wide with terror. Mrs. Phan had also woken up and was weeping hysterically for her husband. Master Phan began to babble. He pointed at the workers who were sleeping in the adjoining house, who had now scrambled to see what was happening. In Master Phan's eyes, they were no longer simple, honest laborers. He saw their faces elongated, covered in fur, transforming into horse-like creatures. These horsemen were baring their fangs, hooves stomping rhythmically on the tiled floor, just waiting to pounce and tear him apart. You beasts!" Master Phan shrieked. "I fed you, I clothed you, how dare you betray me?" He grabbed a pillow and hurled it wildly into the air in front of him. Then he jumped off the bed and ran into the courtyard like a madman, clawing at his own face, sharp fingernails tearing his skin, creating long streaks of blood that streamed down. Master Tam shouted at Ben, who, though startled, immediately rushed forward, using all his might to restrain Master Phan from behind. The 60-year-old man, possessed by an unnatural strength, struggled violently, almost throwing Ben off. Master Tam quickly pulled a yellow talisman from his brown robe, bit his index finger, quickly drew a bloody symbol on the talisman, and then pressed it firmly onto Master Phan's forehead. As the talisman touched him, Master Phan shivered, his body went limp, and he collapsed onto the courtyard floor. Master Tam instructed everyone else to step back, leaving only Master Phan, Mrs. Phan, and Ben. Master Phan sat hunched in the middle of the courtyard, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the blood. His voice was trembling and hoarse as he confessed the sins he had buried for 20 years. "Back then, I was very poor, toiling in the fields all year, barely having enough to eat, and my daughter was constantly ill, but I had no money for medicine. One day, a sorcerer passed through the village. He said I had a noble patron, but didn't know how to use it. He told me if I wanted to change my fortune, I had to sacrifice a horse. But a horse alone wasn't enough. It needed someone to guide it to find wealth. He instructed me to make a sacrificial effigy, embed the name of a deceased person into it, and bury it with the horse. Initially, I intended to use my deceased brother's name, so I would be blessed by my own family's spirit. Master Phan paused, swallowing hard, his eyes filled with remorse. But I was afraid my brother's spirit would be trapped and resentful, so I tricked the sorcerer. That day, there was a young beggar boy who died of starvation at the market entrance. No one knew his name or origin, people just called him Little Koi. I secretly took his body before people could take it to the burial ground. I cut off his head and used it in place of the effigy. I thought he was an unknown, insignificant child, so if I offered him sacrifices, he would be grateful and bless me. I buried the boy's head along with the horse's skeleton beneath the house, right where I planned to place our bed later. After that, my fortune soared like a kite in the wind. Everything I touched prospered, money flowed in like water, but I never imagined. Mrs. Phan, hearing this, let out a choked cry and fainted. Ben's hands and feet trembled, so the wealth and prosperity of this house were built upon the bones and hooves of an innocent child. Master Tam's face remained unchanged upon hearing this, but his eyes held deep sorrow and anger. He struck his staff forcefully on the ground. You were wrong, terribly wrong. A relative's spirit might still have some blood ties, some leniency. But you used the spirit of a starved child who died unjustly, decapitated and imprisoned within an animal's bones. It carries the hatred of a life cast aside and the agony of a creature buried alive. For 20 years, you appeased it with votive offerings and lavish feasts. But what it truly needed was compassion, release. Instead, you hammered a nail into its head to bind it. Now it has become a demon, no longer content with gold and silver. It craves flesh and blood to reclaim its fragmented body. As Master Tam finished speaking, there was a clamor at the gate. A group of young men rushed in, their faces pale with terror, bringing grave news. Brother Ba, a plump worker, had been found dead this morning in the muddy, reddish ditch by Red Earth Hill. Brother Ba had drowned in a ditch only knee-deep, but what terrified everyone was his dying posture. He was found face down in the mud, his hands clawing at the earth as if trying to push himself up, but held down by an unseen force. More horrifyingly, the rough fabric of his shirt on his back was torn, revealing a severely bruised and mangled back. The wounds clearly formed the shape of a horse's hoofprint. His neck was tightly constricted by a braided rope, like a chicken's neck, so tight that his tongue protruded. Ben heard the news and remembered Master Phan's nightmare about his workers turning into horsemen. Now, the nightmare had become a terrifying reality. Bad news spread like wildfire. The entire Bay Say village was plunged into a state of grief and extreme fear. People began to lock their doors as soon as dusk fell. No one dared to venture out, especially near Master Phan's house. Rumors about Master Phan raising ghosts to harm people began to circulate. Master Tam stood in the courtyard, looking up at the swirling black clouds. He knew time was short. The monster beneath the house, fully awakened by yesterday's digging, was now a potent threat. He turned to Master Phan, his voice firm as steel. You caused all this, so you must end it with your own hands. Prepare for me 7 types of thorny branches: soapberry, forest bamboo, rattan, thorn bush, wild rose, pomelo, and wild apple, and an old, worn fishing net. The older, the better, one that has touched the pungent blood of fish. Tonight, we will perform a ritual. Life, death, and happiness, everything will be decided tonight. Master Phan nodded through his tears, trembling as he rose to find the items Master Tam requested. In his heart, there was no longer any regret for his fortune, only profound fear and bitter remorse. The heavy cloak of night slowly descended, shrouding the grand old house. The sky over Bay Say village darkened as if swallowed by some giant, invisible entity. The air was thick with a breathless stillness, yet the thorny hedges around Master Phan's house rustled and shivered as if in fear. Master Tam the Cripple stood on the brick courtyard, instructing Ben and Master Phan's household to quickly prepare the offerings. 7 types of thorny branches were brought: soapberry thorns, forest bamboo thorns, rattan thorns, thorn bush, wild rose thorns, pomelo thorns, and wild apple thorns. All were sharp, highly damaging thorns, believed in folklore to ward off evil and suppress demons. Master Tam personally wove these thorny branches into a large circle around a mat placed on the ground. Beneath the mat, he placed an antique incense burner, its burning charcoal glowing red. The scent of roasted soapberry on the embers, fragrant yet pungent, mixed with the metallic odor of the bowl of dog blood placed beside it, creating a strange, unsettling smell. The most crucial item Master Tam requested was the old fishing net. This was no ordinary net, but one belonging to a retired, experienced fisherman, submerged in the riverbed for many years, imbued with the cold energy of water spirits and the pungent scent of fish blood. Master Tam soaked the net in a basin of ginger water mixed with wine, then wrung it dry and draped it over a bamboo frame standing upright to the north, directly facing the main entrance of the votive workshop. Master Phan, his wife, and daughter were instructed to hold the ancestral tablets inside the main house to seek protection. Ben, clutching his shovel, stood guard at the western corner of the courtyard, his face tense, sweat pouring down. As midnight struck, the rhythmic tapping of Master Tam's wooden clapper began, a dry, steady sound. Master Tam began to chant his incantations, his voice a low murmur. Suddenly, from the direction of the votive workshop, a swirling black vortex of wind erupted. The workshop door, which had been securely locked, suddenly burst open. The wind didn't blow from outside in, but from within the workshop out, carrying with it scattered paper debris and thousands of torn paper fragments. The paper money effigies, the paper clothes, the fragile paper dragonflies all were swept up and spun into a giant vortex. In that chaotic whirlwind, paper horses, the size of palms, suddenly inflated as if filled with air. They floated and whittled around Master Tam's and Ben's heads. The rustling sound of paper rubbing against each other was chilling. Ben, horrified, swung his shovel wildly into the air, but as he struck one, another would rush at him, relentlessly and fiercely. A paper horse lunged directly at Ben's face, its hard paper hooves leaving a long, bruised gash on his cheek. Blood immediately began to trickle out. The paper horses seemed to smell the blood. They furiously lunged at Ben's wound. Master Tam shouted loudly, "Concentrate, don't let your mind be disturbed." He grabbed the bowl of holy water and forcefully splashed it into the swirling vortex. Wherever the holy water touched, the paper horses erupted in green smoke. But from within the paper storm, a low, guttural growl echoed, shaking the very earth beneath their feet. The swirling paper vortex gradually dissipated, but it didn't completely vanish. Instead, it coalesced into a dense, dark mass that slowly materialized in the middle of the courtyard. Under the faint moonlight and the glowing embers, the monster's true form emerged, making Ben gasp, his limbs trembling. It was a grotesque creature, about 2 meters tall, with a human-like but incredibly muscular body, bulging muscles rippling beneath its dark, coarse skin. However, its head was that of a long, horse-like head, its matted, tangled mane obscuring one side of its face. Its eyes, as large as rice bowls, were blood red, without pupils, just a fiery crimson. Its limbs were disproportionately long, its fingers bony but with sharp claws, and its feet were replaced by 2 massive horse hooves. Each step it took on the brick courtyard cracked the baked earth. It let out a roar not a human sound, nor an animal's, but a horrifying blend of a horse's whinny and a child's cry. The monster charged directly towards Master Tam's altar. Seeing his master in peril, Ben didn't hesitate. He let out a defiant shout and lunged to intercept it. He swung his iron shovel powerfully at the monster's shoulder, creating a dull, sickening thud. The shovel bent on impact, but the monster was completely unfazed. It simply turned its head and casually swiped at Ben. Ben felt as if he had been hit by a freight train. His entire body flew across the courtyard, slamming hard against the wall. Seeing this, Master Tam's eyes blazed with fierce determination. He didn't retreat. He held his ebony staff firmly, muttering incantations in a low, sharp tone, a powerful banishing curse. As the monster charged, Master Tam moved swiftly, dodging like a seasoned warrior. His ebony staff swung, striking the monster hard in the Dan Trung acupoint on its chest. Master Tam's staff was an heirloom, steeped in various potent herbs and dried in sunlight for 9981 days, specifically used to combat evil spirits and dark magic. Yet, the monster's vitality was immense. It attacked relentlessly. Master Tam parried and retreated towards the bamboo frame where the fishing net was draped. He knew his aged strength wouldn't hold out much longer. He needed an opportunity to deliver a decisive blow. The more Master Tam retreated, the more aggressive the monster became, rearing up on its front legs, ready to trample him. At that precise moment, Master Tam threw his staff aside, grabbed both ends of the fishing net, imbued with dog blood and holy water, and flung it high into the air. The old net billowed in midair, neatly trapping the monster's head and upper body. Master Tam pulled hard, tightening the net, wrapping it tightly around its body. The monster shrieked in agony, writhing on the ground. Black smoke billowed from its form. It tried to tear the net with its claws, but the more it struggled, the tighter the net constricted. The struggle in the brick courtyard was incredibly fierce. Although covered by the net, the monster's wild strength remained intact. In its death throes, it kicked wildly. One of its sharp hooves brutally scraped Master Tam's remaining good leg. Fresh blood gushed out. Master Tam collapsed, groaning in pain, clenching his teeth, his vision blurring, seeing only a flash of white bone. He tried to get up, but his old, injured leg no longer obeyed his will. Images from the past flooded his mind like a slow-motion film. That day, he too was a proud young man, confident in his skills. During one exorcism for a powerful family, he had carelessly provoked a vengeful spirit, which broke his left leg. From then on, he limped, and from then on, he understood the exorbitant price of interfering with life and death. Now his remaining leg was also wounded, and he knew he would be hard-pressed to escape this tribulation. In the main house, Master Phan peered through the door crack, seeing Master Tam collapse in a pool of blood while the monster thrashed wildly. Overwhelming fear enveloped him, but intertwined with it was a stinging guilt. He looked at his trembling wife, his vacant-eyed daughter, and then out at the courtyard, where an old man was risking his life for his family. Master Phan suddenly felt despicable, pitiful. A wave of hot energy surged through his spine. He grabbed the cleaver from the table in the corner, kicked open the door, and rushed out. "Here I am, I have a head and a master, you're looking for me?" Master Phan screamed. He charged forward, swinging the cleaver powerfully at the monster. The sharp blade sank into its flesh, but no blood flowed out, only a thick, black, viscous fluid. The unexpected attack made the monster pause. It turned its head, its dim, horse-like eyes staring intently at him. Yet the creature didn't growl in anger. It didn't lunge to tear him apart. It looked at him with eyes not of a bloodthirsty beast, but of a human filled with sorrow, resentment, and reproach. It slowly bowed its head, bringing it level with Master Phan's eyes, and let out a long sigh that sounded like a heartbreaking sob. Master Phan was stunned. A chilling sense of familiarity washed over his heart. Those eyes, that pain, he had seen them before. In that moment of the monster's distraction by Master Phan's appearance, Master Tam, enduring his pain, seized his ebony staff. The tip of the staff held a pure silver trident. Master Tam gathered his last remaining strength, launching himself like an arrow, and plunged the trident forcefully into the very center of the monster, right at its glabella, where the rusty iron nail had trapped its soul. Master Tam's piercing cry tore through the night. The trident penetrated the thick skin, embedding itself deep into the skull within the monster. The creature let out a horrifying, desperate shriek, an echo that reverberated throughout the village like the wailing of countless lost souls. Its massive, monstrous body began to crack, black skin flaking off and tearing, dissolving into dust as it hit the ground. The thorny net erupted in flames, burning furiously. In mere moments, the giant monster completely vanished, leaving behind only a pile of charred ash, scorched flesh, and a pungent, burnt odor. Everything fell into a terrifying silence. The pre-dawn breeze was cold, the moon still shining faintly. Master Tam let go of his staff and collapsed onto the courtyard. Master Phan stood there, the cleaver dangling from his hand. Suddenly, from within the still smoking pile of ash, a faint, childlike voice called out, "Father!" The call was soft as a whisper, yet it weighed 1,000 pounds. The cleaver fell from Master Phan's hand. He knelt, crawling towards the ash pile, trembling as he sifted through it. Master Tam, lying there, spoke in a strained voice. "You recognized that voice, Master Phan. 20 years ago, the beggar boy who died at the market entrance. You thought he was an anonymous child. That boy's name was Koi. His mother was Ko Len, the girl who worked as a maid in your house years ago. You seduced her, and when she became pregnant, you cast her out to marry your wealthy wife. Ko Len gave birth in poverty, then died of a terrible illness. Little Koi wandered the streets, searching for his father. Finally, he died of starvation right at the market you passed every day. You didn't recognize him, but the blood in his veins recognized you." Master Phan froze as the truth flooded him like a torrent. He remembered the tattered beggar boy's eyes, lingering around his stall back then. He had often shooed him away, even kicked him, sending him sprawling on the ground. He never imagined that was his own flesh and blood. And more cruelly, with his own hands, he had decapitated his biological son, hammered a nail into his forehead, and buried him under the house to be a guard. to be a horse to ride for 20 years. This atrocity was something the heavens and earth would not tolerate. Master Phan let out a cry of agony, clutching his chest, rolling on the ground. He repeatedly bashed his head against the tiled floor, as if punishing his sinful body. His cries of remorse, mixed with the wind's wail, resonated with the deepest sorrow. He lay crumpled on the cold brick courtyard, his hands clawing at the earth as if wanting to dig a hole and disappear. After that long night, with the thorny hedges of the village making eerie whistling sounds, Master Tam's words struck the man, who had been blind by money his entire life, straight to his core. Mrs. Phan woke from her faint. Hearing the whole story, she too was stunned. She never imagined that the wealth and prosperity her family had enjoyed for so long were built upon the flesh and blood of an innocent child. And cruelly, that child was her husband's illegitimate son. She wanted to scream curses, to lunge and claw at him, but her strength had been drained by the horror, leaving her only able to sit slumped by the threshold, tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, from the dim, enclosed room where Lua was resting, a child's mournful, pitiful cry, as if being beaten, echoed. Hearing it sent chills down Ben's spine. Ben helped Master Tam sit up. He looked into the house and saw Lua's figure stumbling out. She walked barefoot, her hair disheveled. Her gait was no longer the graceful, ladylike walk of before, but swayed, her arms hanging limply, head bowed. Lua stopped before Master Phan, still as a wooden statue. Master Phan looked up at his daughter, but the eyes staring back at him were not Lua's. They were foreign eyes, cloudy, filled with deep hatred. Lua opened her mouth, and a childlike voice, soft yet chilling, spoke, "Father, why did you drive a nail into my head?" Master Phan flinched, scrambling backward, his face drained of blood. He stammered, "My child, your father." Lua, no longer the girl but the vengeful spirit of Koi possessing her body, took a quick, limping step closer. "I was so hungry, I looked for you everywhere. I saw you selling things at the market. I tried to run to you to call you, but you pushed me away. I was so hurt, then I died so cold. I thought you would come for me, that you loved me. You brought me home, but why did you cut off my head? Why did you make me a horse for you to ride?" Each question was like a knife twisting in Master Phan's heart. He cried hysterically, sobbing. He slammed his head against the tiled floor, hitting the hard bricks. Blood streamed down, mixing with his tears. "I beg you, my child, I beg you, forgive me. I was wrong, I was a beast, worse than an animal. Back then I was foolish, desperate, I didn't know it was you." The spirit possessing Lua's body laughed maniacally, the chilling sound echoing throughout the village, making everyone shiver. "You didn't know it was me, so you killed me? So if it were another child, you would just kill them freely? Father, I hurt so much. The nail you drove into my forehead is rusty. It has eaten into my bones, it hurts so bad. For 20 years, I had to carry gold, silver, and jewels for you. It was so heavy, Father." Master Tam the Cripple sat leaning against the porch pillar, clutching a string of ebony beads, murmuring banishing incantations to appease the vengeful spirit. He knew the child's resentment was too great to be simply driven away with spells. It needed to be appeased with remorse and regret that had been suppressed for decades. Mrs. Phan, at that moment, could no longer contain herself. She abandoned her husband and rushed to Lua's feet, weeping and pleading. "My child, you're Koi, aren't you? Auntie begs you, please spare Lua. She is your sister, she is innocent. All the sins your father committed, just put them on his head, don't torment your sister anymore. Auntie will offer you food, burn clothes for you. Auntie promises to worship you kindly." The spirit of Koi looked at Mrs. Phan, its eyes softening slightly, but still full of wariness. "You were kind, Auntie, you often gave me leftovers at the market, but father was evil. He wanted wealth so badly that he sold his soul to a demon. Now I am a demon and I must collect my debt. Blood for blood, life for life." After saying this, Lua suddenly collapsed to the ground, convulsing violently, a white foam bubbling from her mouth. Ben quickly rushed to pin Lua down, preventing her from biting her own tongue. Master Tam, suppressing the pain in his leg, crawled closer and placed his hand on Lua's forehead, transmitting a surge of warm energy into her glabella, preventing her soul from being blown away by the vengeful spirit. He looked at Master Phan, who lay crumpled like a withered leaf, his voice firm. "This karma was caused by you. Now if you want to save your daughter, if you want to save this house, you only have one path. Do you dare to take it?" Master Phan looked up. "Yes, I dare. Master, if you tell me to die for her, I will gladly do so. I only beg you to save Lua, save my family." Master Tam shook his head, his gaze distant, looking into the pitch-black night. "Death is too easy. Living to repay your debt, that is the hard part. You use the dark horse demon ritual to gain wealth. To undo it, you must destroy all that wealth. Destroy all your wealth. You must burn everything, burn clean this entire votive workshop, leaving nothing behind. All the money, silver, and gold you've accumulated, all the items you've sold, you must give them all away to the poor or donate them to the triple gem. You must return to being penniless and poor, just like the day before you met that dark sorcerer. Master Phan heard this and his hands and feet trembled, his face turned dark. Burn everything? That's my life's fortune, my pride in the village, my guarantee for a prosperous old age. If I give it all away, I will become a penniless beggar. Greed and attachment to material possessions struggled within him, clashing with remorse and love for his child. Master Tam saw straight into his heart, his voice growing stern. You still hesitate. Look at your daughter. The soul of that child is clinging to her, nourished by your greed. As long as you cling to this fortune, it will linger, clinging and draining life force. You choose to keep your money, and you will lose your daughter, lose your entire family. Give up the money, and you might save your life, save the last glimmer of good fortune for your lineage. At this moment, Lua began to groan, a low, guttural sound from her throat, like a wild beast growling threateningly. Mrs. Phan, clutching her daughter, turned to her husband, her eyes filled with desperate pleading. Husband, please. Wealth is fleeting, you can't take it with you when you die. Burn it all to save our daughter. We can endure hardship, eat vegetables and porridge as long as Lua lives. Master Phan looked at his wife, then at his daughter, then at his own calloused hands, the hands that had built his fortune. He remembered the image of little Koi, tattered and starved, dying at the market. He remembered the chilling sensation of holding the knife and cutting the neck of that nameless child. His entire life he had chased money, and what had he gained in the end? A grand but cold house, a family living in fear, and a soul corrupted by sin. Tears now streamed from his eyes, but this time they were not tears of fear, but of surrender. He stood up, stumbling, and walked towards the votive workshop. Very well, I will burn it. I will burn everything, repaying all my debts to the mortal world, repaying all to the child. Master Tam nodded, gesturing to Ben. Ben, help him bring out the kerosene, but light the fire from all four corners, converging in the middle. This is not an ordinary fire. This is a cremation for a sinful past. Master Phan went into the house and brought out the stored cans of kerosene. His hands trembling, he poured the oil over the long rows of paper horses, over the towering stacks of paper money and silver ingots, over the paper cars and houses. The pungent smell of kerosene rose, overpowering the musty odor and the scent of death. He stood before the giant paper horse he had commissioned just a few days ago, the most beautiful, most expensive one. He looked into its eyes and whispered, I was wrong. I will free you, and in doing so, free myself. Then he took a lighter from his pocket, flicked the wheel. Fire flared up, igniting the oil, blazing fiercely like a ravenous beast. The intense heat radiated onto Master Phan's face, making it burn. He watched the flames quickly engulf his life's work, his passion. But strangely, in his heart, there was no longer regret, only a profound sense of relief. Flames erupted from all four corners of the workshop, quickly merging into a blazing inferno. A thick column of black smoke billowed high into the sky. Bay village, sleeping soundly, was awakened by the bright glow and the crackling sounds of the burning timber. They rushed out, staring in horror at Master Phan's house. Some wanted to shout for help to put out the fire, but when they reached the gate, they stopped. Master Phan's gate was tightly shut. Inside the courtyard, Master Tam stood before the colossal fire, tapping his clapper, chanting scriptures, his voice blending with the roar of the flames, creating a solemn and mournful sound. And within that sea of fire, strange phenomena began to appear. Ben stood beside Master Tam, eyes wide. He saw in the blazing red tongues of fire the silhouettes of thousands of paper horses running and jumping. They weren't being consumed. Instead, they seemed to be set free, galloping into the vast expanse and disappearing into the crackling sounds of the burning wood. He heard neighing echoing through the sky, not cries of pain, but the whinnies of freedom. Master Tam kept his eyes tightly shut, chanting silently, sweat soaking his brown robe. He knew this was a crucial moment. This fire wasn't just burning physical objects. It was burning away grudges, malevolent energies clinging to every piece of paper, every bamboo strip. Master Phan knelt before the workshop, his hands clasped, bowing reverently. Mrs. Phan and Lua were by his side. Lua had also fully awakened now. Her eyes were no longer vacant but clear and bright. She looked at the flames, a faint, peaceful smile gracing her lips. Father, little Koi is gone. He smiled at me. He said he doesn't hurt anymore. He's riding a spirit horse, waiting for you, father. Lua whispered, her voice weak but full of certainty. Master Phan heard his daughter speak and tears streamed down his face. The fire raged for a full day and a night. The entire grand workshop, with all its goods and materials, was reduced to a pile of charred ash. When the last flames died down, it was just past dawn. A sudden downpour of rain poured down, drenching and cooling the smoking ashes. The air became fresh and cool. Master Tam the Cripple stood up, leaning on his staff, his face gaunt. He looked at the ruins and nodded in satisfaction. It is done. The karma has been alleviated, at least in part. But then he stopped, turning to look at the red dirt road leading out of the village, his silver eyebrows furrowed. After the shocking fire, Master Phan's family was left penniless. No more grand house, no more servants. They lived in the dilapidated three-room house that remained after the fire. They subsisted on the spare change Mrs. Phan had hidden in an old jar buried in the garden. Surprisingly, this return to poverty brought peace to their souls. Lua made a full recovery. Master Phan, his hair now completely white, spent his days vegetarian and chanting Buddhist prayers. The villagers, seeing his family's changed circumstances, were less hostile and occasionally brought them some vegetables and fish. It seemed everything had settled down, the storm had passed. But Master Tam the Cripple didn't think so. He remained in his thatched hut at the village's edge, constantly observing day and night. He knew a curse that had lingered for 20 years, accumulating the vengeful energy of thousands of paper horses, could not be completely dispelled by a single fire. And his worries proved true. About a week after the fire, strange reports began to pour in. First, there was the story of Mr. Lai in the neighboring district. He had bought a large paper horse from Master Phan's workshop to offer for his son's promotion. After burning the votive offerings, the paper horse seemed to fly away. The next morning, his son, riding his motorbike, suddenly lost control and plunged into a ravine. When the motorbike was recovered, it was crushed, but strangely, his son's head was twisted backward. The son's legs were broken, and he lay in bed constantly muttering horse whinnies. Then came the story of the fabric merchant at the provincial market. She had bought a batch of sacrificial effigies from the workshop to pray for good business. After burning them the day before, her fabric warehouse spontaneously combusted the next morning. The fire didn't spread to neighboring houses, it only consumed her warehouse. Bad news like this continued to spread. Wherever votive offerings from Master Phan's workshop were found, disaster struck. People went mad, others lost their fortunes, some suffered unexpected accidents. Master Tam sat listening to Ben recount these stories, his face pensive. He sighed, tapping his staff on the ground. I feared this. Burning the nest destroys the home, but when the bees scatter, they fly everywhere. Koi's resentment has been appeased, but the horse demon dark magic has permeated every product. When people burn those things, they inadvertently activate the malevolent energies that remained. They are hungry, searching for new hosts. So what do we do now, Master? Ben asked. Are we just going to let people suffer like this? We burned the workshop, but it hasn't settled all the debts. Master Tam stood up, slinging his robe over his shoulder, his eyes resolute. We cannot sit by and watch innocent people bear this burden. Ben, do you dare to come with me on a journey? We must clean up this aftermath. Ben looked at his master's limping leg, a wave of admiration washing over him. I will go, Master. Wherever you go, I will follow, through life and death. Master Tam smiled, a rare smile. Good, prepare your belongings. The real journey begins now. We must retrieve and seal all the horse demons still wandering out there before they cause widespread catastrophe. Leaving Bay Say village, Master Tam the Cripple and Ben walked against the wind and sun towards neighboring villages. The two men carried almost no luggage, but Master Tam's gnarled, injured leg made his pace slow and halting on the dusty red road. Yet, his eyes were bright, his determination unusual. Ben walked beside him, supporting his master and observing everything around them, his heart filled with mixed emotions, fear and curiosity about the mysterious spiritual path. Their first destination was Lang Dam, home to Mr. Chin, a notoriously stingy but superstitious man. Rumor had it that Mr. Chin had just bought a brand new Simpson motorbike, a prized possession worth several gold taels. But before he could even ride it, something happened. The motorbike was bought with money from selling land and also with votive offerings purchased from Master Phan's workshop. As the two men reached Mr. Chin's gate, they found a chaotic scene. Workers huddled outside the gate, while inside, the sound of a roaring engine echoed erratically. Master Tam motioned for Ben to stop, then, leaning on his staff, walked to the center of the brick courtyard. The bright red motorbike stood on its center stand, but it was shaking violently. Its wheels spun furiously, emitting thick, pungent black smoke from the exhaust. The strange thing was, no one was on the bike, nor was anyone starting the engine. The motorbike seemed to have a mind of its own. Its handlebars swayed back and forth, its headlights flashing on and off. Mr. Chin, hiding behind a limewood door, was overjoyed to see Master Tam arrive. He rushed out and bowed repeatedly, explaining that whenever anyone tried to get on, the bike would violently throw them off. The center stand repeatedly slammed against the tiled floor, making sounds like horse hooves. Master Tam closed his eyes, examining the bike. He saw a faint black aura surrounding the cold steel, resembling an enraged horse. "This is the lingering resentment of the horse demon," Master Tam explained. "It has possessed an object with a similar shape and function to a horse, to wreak havoc." Master Tam told Ben to go to the compost heap in the garden and get a handful of straw, then add a little salt water to it. He held the straw in his hand and slowly approached the motorbike. The motorbike seemed to sense the danger. Its engine roared louder, its wheels spinning so fast that they kicked up gravel. Master Tam didn't immediately use a spell. He understood that all living beings, whether good or evil, had instincts. He raised the straw to his mouth and clicked his tongue. "Good boy, eat this and go home." The motorbike's roaring engine suddenly quieted to a low rumble. The bike slowly turned towards Master Tam. Just as it was about to lunge, Master Tam threw the straw towards a pond covered with water hyacinths at the edge of the courtyard. Following the instinct of a hungry creature, the motorbike jumped off its stand and sped towards the straw. Seeing this, Master Tam shouted loudly, telling Ben to block its path with a carrying pole. The motorbike crashed into the pole, lost its balance, and flew straight into the pond. Water splashed everywhere, and the bike sank into the muddy depths. The water's surface erupted with black gas bubbles, emitting a strong, foul odor. Master Tam quickly grabbed a handful of sacred soil and sprinkled it directly onto the rising gas bubbles. He turned to Mr. Chin and told him to immediately fill in the pond, lest the evil remain permanently buried beneath the earth. After resolving the case in Lang Dam, the two men continued their journey. For a week, they tirelessly visited 5 villages and dozens of households. Dealing with various incidents sometimes, it was a paper buffalo in a farmer's offering ceremony. Other times, it was flying paper clothes haunting the market, all of them remnants of Master Phan's votive workshop. After thoroughly clearing all the lingering evil from Master Phan's votive workshop, Master Tam and Ben decided to return to Bay Say village to offer thanks to heaven and earth at the abandoned temple at the village entrance. However, they were unaware that a truly dangerous threat awaited them, an adversary more formidable than all the wandering spirits they had encountered. That night, there was no moon, no stars. The eerie silence of the earthen graves in the burial ground at the edge of the village, where the two men had to pass to reach the temple, was unsettling. As they walked, Master Tam suddenly stopped, his ebony staff trembling violently in his hand. He raised his hand, signaling Ben to stand still. "There's a strong evil presence." Before he could finish, a figure darted out from the shadows of the casuarina trees. He wore a pure black robe and a turban, his face gaunt, eyes deeply sunken. In his hands, he held a tattered fan and a dark, oxidized bronze bell. Master Tam closed his eyes and then recognized him. It was the same sorcerer who had passed through the village years ago and taught Master Phan the horse demon ritual. He hadn't aged with time. Instead, he seemed to have become younger in a terrifying way. The sorcerer gave a sinister laugh, his voice grating like metal scraping glass. "Well done, Tam the Cripple. I spent so much effort establishing that wealth-gathering ritual at Old Phan's house to steal life force, and you dared to destroy it all. Today, I've come to settle this debt," Master Tam calmly replied. "You practice dark magic, harming people and spreading misfortune among the innocent. Today, I will uphold justice and strip you of your power. Let's see what your old, crippled self can do." The sorcerer flung a handful of paper money and votive offerings into the air. The papers hovered then, accompanied by a ghostly bell sound. They suddenly inflated, transforming into shadowy human figures. These were Yin soldiers, wandering souls he had captured and transmuted into loyal servants. He commanded them to attack the two men. They carried no weapons, but their claws were as sharp as knives, and the cold emanating from their bodies made the surrounding air feel frozen. Ben swung his shovel at a shadow, but the shovel passed right through it as if striking air. Master Tam had to use his enchanted ebony staff to defend against them. With a single strike, he made several Yin soldiers dissipate, but their numbers were vast. One wave after another surged forward. Master Tam's injured left leg began to bleed, making movement difficult. The sorcerer stood from a distance, observing. Seeing Master Tam struggling, he smirked. He pulled a sharpened bamboo effigy from his sleeve, chanted a spell, and launched it directly at Master Tam. The effigy flew like a poisoned arrow, aimed straight for the old man's heart. Ben, struggling with the Yin soldiers, saw the imminent danger to his master. Without thinking, he let out a roar and threw himself in front of Master Tam. The sharp point of the effigy pierced Ben's left shoulder. He cried out in pain and collapsed, fresh blood staining a large patch of his brown robe red. Master Tam roared in anger, catching his brave disciple, looking at the deep wound and Ben's contorted, pained face. Master Tam's eyes blazed with fury. He knew that if he didn't give his all today, both he and Ben would perish in this cold burial ground. Master Tam gently laid Ben on the makeshift bed of grass, then pulled the bamboo effigy from his shoulder. Blood gushed out. He then tore a piece of his robe and quickly tied it to staunch the bleeding from the wound, then turned back to face the evil sorcerer. Ben's sacrifice had pushed Master Tam to his absolute limit. He understood that with his current strength, he couldn't defeat,